All right, fungibility. It's quite an important modeling concept to kind of get your head around because it does have a fairly significant impact on things like usability of the model size, organization, and so on. So to the extent that you can kind of think more consciously and be more explicitly aware of fungibility, your modeling will have a much greater benefit from a structure and consistency perspective. Fungibility is basically, it's a unitary thing that can be repeatedly used. I mean, we do this a lot from a modular perspective. If I build a multi-business unit model, I will build a fungible unit for the actual business unit itself and then just copy this and use it on a consistent basis. Now, in terms of the modeling implications of employing fungibility and consistency, your model is just much more usable. From a learnability perspective, it just becomes much easier for somebody to understand the model. They don't have to understand 25 different pieces. All they have to do is understand a single piece. And from a model maintenance perspective, to the extent that, particularly if you're using things like mirrored modules, to the extent that you have a consistent block of calculations, your ability to maintain those and make consistent changes absolutely skyrockets because you're just dealing with the same consistent block. And, you start to leverage things like copying and pasting and, again, as I say, mirrored kind of modules. So fungibility it keeps models nice and consistent. And at a fundamental level, consistency is what actually makes good models, and it's what keeps models on the straight and narrow and gives them longevity. Now, it's also important to be aware of the double-edged sword around fungibility. And this comes down to how much complexity you build into any one unit. So, for example, we were building out a loan book the other day, and there were a whole host of potential structures to the loans that were in the book. Our decision at any point in time is that logic and functionality of such universal benefit that we maintain a consistent fungible mechanism for all loans in the loan book? Or are we going to end up making the lowest common denominator so complex that it actually starts to work against the simplicity of the model? So fungibility is incredibly powerful from a model structural perspective, but there is a slight trade-off in terms of, do you make that unit all singing, all dancing and actually undermine your complexity that way? Or do you actually start to break off and say, well, no, at this point, this genuinely is no longer a fungible structure. This is an entirely unique standalone piece of work. All right, I get the structural benefits of it being similar, but on a truly fungible basis, there are more items and pieces to kind of be aware of. So again, this is not so much saying I have the answers. It's more just like getting you to think critically and questioning, okay, when does fungibility benefit the model and when should I get rid of it and start to break against things? And particularly what we tend to find in Modano is that we will mirror modules in the first instance because it gives us the ability to maintain that consistency. And then the software obviously also allows us to break them off and unmirror them and then treat them on a slightly more unique basis.